Welcome to video 34 of Gamer to Game Developer Series 1. And in this video, I'll talk a bit about where Gamer to Game Developer can go from here. So there are basically two options open to me. One is I can continue making tutorials. And the other is that I'd start work on a commercial game. So it depends on whether I can get Series 1 greenlit. If I can, then I'll continue on with making tutorial series, because it's a huge amount of time and effort that I have to invest to actually create the learning material. So if I can't get it greenlit, then instead I'll commence work on building a commercial game, a game that I've been wanting to make for a long time. So it'll be a story-driven 2D RPG game. I'll talk about both of them in just a bit. So with Path 1, what would a future series look like? Well, with Series 2, it'll be an advanced series, so there aren't any basic concepts being covered anymore. In this series, the first thing that I'll do is to update the player database. So I intend to completely or almost completely eliminate the need for buffered RPCs. So now there's a simple player database on the server that's keeping track of all key information of the players and is able to provide that information as and when required. Then the next really major improvement I'd make is to completely change the player movement update system. So as you know, at the moment, it's based off player position. When the player moves, their position is updated across the network. And you'll have noticed that when you start reaching higher pings, like above 200 milliseconds, you start noticing choppy behavior. The player movement looks a bit choppy. So with this new movement system, that'll be gone. Basically it'll be much smoother, and they'll only be for really laggy connections. Like if it is like 250-300 milliseconds, then there'd be occasional glitchiness as and when players stop their motion and I synchronize their position across the network upon stopping their motion. But otherwise their motion across the network will be way smoother and cleaner. And we don't need to resort to prediction to implement this, though the system would lend itself towards prediction if I decide to implement that in the future. Now the main highlight is being able to join a server by being able to select from a list of servers. So I'd be focusing on Unity Master Server, but I'm going to have a look at Photon as well. And if that's more appropriate, then I'll go for that instead of the Unity Master Server. So I'll need to do research on that. And of course, I'd like to have a basic lobby room. So before the players actually launch into the game, if there isn't a game already set up, then they'd connect to the server and they'd be in a lobby room, and the host player would then select a map and then launch the game. And of course, the players can send chat messages to each other. So pretty basic but standard lobby system. All right. And since it's probably going to be Unity 4 by then, so I'd of course need to upgrade the particle system. So it'd probably be all Shuriken particle systems. And so I'll need to learn that. And what I do intend to do is to get rid of the construction blocks and the air blocks, because they won't be of value in the complete game that I'm looking at. So what I've been imagining and what I've been planning, they won't really hold a place there anymore, because there'll be a different construction system where the player can build specific structures at specific nodes in the maps. So the development time that I expect for Series 2 would probably be a year at least. I say they're late 2013, but that's not too likely. It's more likely early 2014, because I'll be doing a lot of research. As you know from Series 1, I really do take quite a lot of care in what I'm presenting to you, and you notice that all of the videos fit in very well together. So I do a lot of planning, a lot of research, and then a lot of development. So like, Series 1, I didn't just develop it one time. I actually developed it 3 times, and then you actually saw in the videos the 4th time. So there's quite a few iterations involved to actually get to the final release with, a reasonably high standard of quality. Now that's series 2. So that's what I'd intend to have in series 2. And I could make it so that the series are shorter, like more concise, so then I can release them faster. Or I could make them, I don't think I'll be making a series as long as series 1 again. I hope not, because that's probably too much information in a single series, and it really makes it long. Even for you as a learner, it seems very long. It'll probably be better for me to make it more concise. And I'll also have to think up of a better way to actually teach the concepts without having to go into multiple hour-long videos, like 2-hour-long videos. So try and get away from that. Try to give you all the knowledge that you need in a shorter amount of time. So of course I'll have to plan that. Now in future series, that it doesn't stop all there. I need to get this project towards completion. So to do that, I'm also thinking of having a proper player attribute system. And for the game that I'm thinking of, it'll be a game where the players can select a bunch of abilities, or they use their attribute points, and they can change their stats, or they can use those attribute points. So they can use their attribute points to buy stats, to upgrade their, like their health, their speed, their energy. I'm thinking of adding strength as well to affect what kind of weapons the player can carry. And then the player also has a list of special abilities that they can choose, like, maybe like stealth, teleport you've already seen, things like that. And those can be bought using attribute points. Now, the player, I'm thinking, should have a fixed number of attributes all the time. So it's fair for all gamers when they connect to a game. So basically you build a custom character, but from a set pool of attribute points. Now, the game style I'm thinking of is like a fast-paced control the map style game. Now the point isn't to control the map. No, the point is to collect enough points so the team that gathers the most points is the winning team. So you see that already in a lot of games that are out there, that the team that gathers the most points wins. And you can gather points by destroying enemy players or by controlling map tiles. Now I'm also thinking of designing it so that the maps are actually randomly generated based on a range of preset tiles. So I don't actually go ahead and design levels in another package. Instead, I have preset levels that I can build from tiles. So maybe I do need to use something like Blender to build those tiles and make them look nice. I probably do. And then using them, I can randomly generate maps that the players can play on. And then, as I was saying a bit earlier, then I also intend to have like construction nodes on some of the tiles that allow the players to build specific structures that would give their team an advantage. And this would be like near the very end of the Gamer to Game Developer tutorial series. So that's when I'd really focus on the art style. So I probably would have to partner up with an artist because I'm no artist. So I'd need to have player models brought in with animation, obviously. And I'm thinking of, like sort of translucent-y, glowing, sort of robotic-looking characters. Of course, I'd need to have weapon models implemented, construction, structure models, and, a professional-looking user interface. I've seen with the new Unity 4 that the user interface looks really nice and interesting. So I'm looking forward to actually playing around with that. And what would the appearance of the game be like? Since I'm using preset tiles, I'm thinking of, like a Tron-like appearance. That way I'm thinking that I could actually use preset tiles to their maximum advantage, using clean lines, clean color, clean glowing light, etc. And using light as a way to make the level, give the level a visual appearance. So that's what I'm just thinking of. That's the idea at the moment anyhow. So if you are interested in following along and having me make future series, then I do have my submission on Greenlight and software. So maybe I'll just jump over to it. So over in Greenlight for software, you'll see if you go to the most recent tab, you'll see somewhere in there GTGD S1. And you can see at the moment I'm 3 out of 5 green stars. I really need to be 5 green stars. And it's totally up to voters and to you as well as the viewer. there's not really anything I can do to improve that. And basically this is what my Greenlight page looks like. I'll put a link down in the description space below for the video. And basically this is what you know already, as you've already seen series 1, but I'm already also thinking of to make the learning package really complete is I'd have all the videos, yes, with better quality than what's on the YouTube channel, because I'm re-rendering all the videos to MOV and with higher quality. So the file size is still, I guess you could say it's something that can be handled. It'll be the total file size of the project would probably be around 10 gigs plus, probably around 10 gigs. And I'll also include project folders for each of the videos themselves. So I was thinking about that, you know, that would be a simple way to really facilitate people's learning. So if I included the project folder with each video, so then you can actually see what's accomplished at the end of each video. It's better than just having only the complete project, which is also offered as well. And I do intend to have the pricing. I've said they're pricing $10 US, though Steam, the Valve team would actually work with the publisher. That's what they say on the Steamworks website. They work with the developer on setting a price, though my intention would be to keep the price really down, you know, down at the game price. And the project, yes, while the project is massive and it is an impressive learning thing, at the same time, I personally don't feel like charging. I don't see any reason I don't see it called for charging a lot of money for a tutorial series, because really at the end of the day, the purpose of it is to be of benefit to people, and I'd like it to be able to, so that as many people as possible can get access to it and learn something useful from it. So that's the end objective. And the reason why I need, obviously, the money is that I don't want donations to try and fund gamer to game developer. That's not sustainable. And it's also, I don't like the way it puts an expectation on me to try and fulfill whatever expectations that people have with the donation, but I'd rather sell a product that even at a low price and be able to obtain funding that way. So I don't want to take anyone's money or anything like that before I've produced a series 2. And in the case, because not everyone will like the project that I'll have at the end. Like most of you enjoyed series 1, but there are some people who, of course, they don't enjoy it. They find it boring or whatever. It wasn't what they were after. So that way it won't be as much of a disappointment for them if they bought it. So they can see what it looks like for free. So that's why I'd rather sell the series. And it's a way that I can make gamer to game developer sustainable into the future. Because you'll notice like there's a lot of good tutorials out there and they've been produced for free. And then the person who developed it, well, they can't produce anymore. They don't produce anymore because it's hard for a person to produce quality tutorials and then you spend a lot of time on it, and you need that time to, of course, go and do other things in life as well. So if you can't actually, I could say, like, you know, make a return on that time, you know, in terms of earnings so that you can fund the future of your projects, then it becomes difficult for you as someone who makes tutorials to continue making them. So if you are interested in seeing a future tutorial series, then do vote for me. Hit the yes that you would like to buy this software if it were available in Steam. And that way you would be helping me to get this greenlit. So I need to get to 5 out of 5 green stars. Basically, that's what you need to do for me if you want to see a future series and to help me out. Yeah, so there isn't really that much more I can do to, I guess, promote. Well, not much more that I know of that I can do to promote the series and to try and get it greenlit. So it's really up to you, my viewers, to actually take this forward. So if you did enjoy this and you would like to see it progress into the future, then tell your friends about me. That's probably the very best thing that you can do, is to tell your friends about me and also to vote for me in Greenlight. Okay, so I'll talk about the second path, okay? So I'll just go ahead and launch this into full screen. And so the second path would be that I'll make a 2D RPG. So if I can't get Series 1 greenlit, so then I wouldn't be making tutorials anymore, but instead I'll start work on a proper game with a proper story. And it's not something that I'll have like done in a year or two. No, I'm thinking it'll probably take me around 4 years because it's a proper game that I'm intending. And what I'm also thinking is that the type of game, since it's a 2D RPG as well, the way I'd aim for it to be is that it'll become like a timeless game. Basically, like after being made 10 years from now, if the operating systems can still operate software 10 years from now, from the date of release, then people would still be playing that game because it would be built to that quality level. Now, what I would do, so there wouldn't be any more tutorial videos, so instead there'd be video releases to show where I'm at and what I've been doing and what's been accomplished, and I'd give insights, bits of insight into what the gameplay is like, and take feedback from my viewers as well in changing the way the gameplay is. And I'd also like to, of course, release like little demos as well so that viewers can try the game out and, give me feedback on what they like and they don't like. Obviously, for the first like 2 years, the game would look really basic. There wouldn't be any art or anything or sound, not many sound effects. It'll be all very placeholder stuff. It'll be all placeholder stuff because I'd like to, of course, have the gameplay mechanics done before really implementing the proper art style. Now, what I'm thinking of is, for a 2D RPG is built from tiles. I'm thinking about that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be built from tiles, but if I did build the 2D game RPG from tiles, then think something like the older Ultimas, basically, but with a more modern interface and appearance. So my objective is not to have something like, really flashy and fancy looking, but something that's restful on the eyes. So, something that even 10 years from now, when you look at it, you wouldn't say, oh, these graphics, oh, they're out of date. No, you'd say that this is something in its own style. And now the game style itself, it would be totally story driven. And the story would be very carefully crafted by me. And the kind of story that I go for is a positive and uplifting one. And not one of these, ones where you play the game and you get all the way to the end, you've been building your player stats, and then bizarrely, for some reason, your player character has to get killed at the end of the game. So, no, not a story like that. I don't like those stories either. And I find them to be, they're kind of they kind of go against what the player was doing throughout the whole game, which is like, making their character really good or powerful or whatever. And then in the end, it's just the plot itself makes the player lose their character. So no, I'm not that type of story writer. I wouldn't write a story like that. I don't like those kinds of stories. And what the type I'd go for is one that would lend itself really well to future games. So for the RPG gameplay system, I'm not thinking of departing too much from existing RPGs. Some things would be different, but a lot I'd take from what's already good, because there you can already see this. The RPG genre is really, really well established now. You can see a lot of good features that are just standard, like you wouldn't go without them. So those would all stay, and I'd try and put my own few things on to make it different, a little bit interesting. Now, for the gameplay, I wouldn't implement features that I really dislike. Like one of them is, the whole game world levels up with you as your player character levels up. I find that extremely annoying because you're playing with your character. Like you'll notice that those types of games, like you play with your character, you get them kitted out, whatever, or upgraded. And then when you level up, instead of, you leveling up and finding that, ooh, I'm looking forward to trying this out or that, you find, wait a minute, all the bad guys are suddenly have become so much stronger. And it seems like, instead of when I leveled up, it seems like I've gotten weaker. So it's odd. It doesn't feel right. So I don't like games that do that. So I find that pretty daft. And I also think that games that ask you to, mindlessly collect things for no real, for a flimsy reason, I really dislike that. I think that's an utter waste of time. You're better off doing your household chores than wasting time and going and collecting, like for example, whatever creature livers or something like that. And then some of them don't even have livers. That's even more ridiculous. So I really dislike that when a game has lazy kinds of quests like that or lazy gameplay like that, because that's really, it's wasting the player's time basically. You really are better off doing something else than wasting your time playing a game that's not even a game anymore. It's like, it is just a waste of time basically. You are better off, you'll find it more rewarding to go and do, as I was saying, your household chores, go vacuum the house or go clean something, go wash the car. That's more interesting and more rewarding. You find it more rewarding after doing it than collecting some pointless thing in a game. All right, so I've gone off a bit too much there. So now the story would be that the player has to be the good guy. Now, I find it nonsensical when you have an RPG game where you can play as the evil character and you go around doing bad things, but in the end, you end up saving the world. And moreover, you don't really even benefit from it. It's not like you replace the other evil character who was the problem. You don't replace them, you just fix everything. So why would a evil bad guy why would they be interested in saving the world? They'd be interested in conquering it, right? So I find that pretty, counterintuitive. I don't find that to make very much sense in games that give you that option. So in the game that I'd make, you'd play as the good guy. None of this nonsense of being the bad guy. Anyway, there's not even any point in playing as the bad guy, because it's easy to play as a bad guy. If you think about it, the bad guy is the easy role, is the easier role, because the bad guy is just going to destroy things, cause problems, etc. That's easy. When you try and be the good guy and you try and set things right and you try and build something, that's much harder. That's where the challenge lies. So I don't see a point in having the option of even being a bad guy in a game. And further to the gameplay style, so I'd say that fighting against the enemies in the game, so combat is important, but dialogue would be just as important and would impact how the story progresses. So players who just mindlessly play through it, they'll find that pointless fights may make the game a bit difficult for them as they progress. Not impossible, but just a bit more difficult, as they'll have more obstacles to make the game more interesting, I guess. And of course the game has to be fun. Otherwise it's not a game, it's pointless then. So at the same time, so it has to be fun, but at the same time I want the player to think and reflect on, I guess, what they're doing in the game. So it's a game that's fun, but at the same time you feel like it was worthwhile you spent your time playing it. You end up playing all the way to the end. I find that there aren't that many games that I actually play all the way to the end. Like, I have lots of games. Like, I buy them to also have a look at how the game systems are. Out of interest, I play them to see what they're like, what kind of things were the developers thinking when they made it, what kind of story. Sometimes when you play the games, it can give you an idea of also what the people are like who made the game. It can give you an idea because they are basically expressing themselves. When you make something, you are in a way expressing yourself too in what you make. So if you make something that's really dark and depressing, it kind of indicates as well to people that that's what's inside you as well. Whereas if you make something that's positive and really nice, then it can express that there's something like that inside you as well. So I find that interesting, to look at games and to look at the style of the game and to try and understand what the developers were thinking when they made it, and to, I guess, understand the systems in it. Anyway, so as for the storyline itself, of course, stories are linear. A book is linear. When you open a book, you read from start through to the end. So the story, of course, is linear, but the way that the story plays out is not a book. So what I'm intending, of course, is like, all good RPGs, you can progress the story at your own pace. You have things like side quests, etc., and you can go and do those. Now, what I'm thinking as well is that all major side quests, they shouldn't be detached from the main storyline, like the main plot. They should all come back towards it to make it more interesting, so that when you go off on a tangent and you do a major side, go on a major side plot, then it's interesting because it has an impact towards the progress of your main storyline. I find it a bit odd sometimes in some games where you go off in you spend a lot of time towards a secondary storyline. It almost feels like it should have something to do with the main storyline because they both seem so significant, yet they just don't. So I move away. I try and make things so that they relate to each other a bit more. So once the gameplay mechanics are done, and I'm thinking that probably it would be like late 2014, early 2015 that I'd actually have the mechanics, the gameplay all sorted out and with feedback from viewers, then so the project would be pretty visually, it wouldn't be anything special or anything or attractive. So it is a difficult thing because when you are developing something, like, it's exciting for you as a developer, you're showing people like, oh, look at this, what you're making. And to you, it's interesting, but art style is very important. The visual appearance is important because people who don't understand, how much work it goes into developing something, they don't understand. Like if they see it, even if it's really neat, the systems, if it doesn't look attractive, then it's just natural, they just don't pay much attention to it. So yes, the art style is pretty important and having a nice appearance. So I would try and have some sort of basic nice appearance, but then I'd probably need to partner up with an artist and a sound artist as well to really take it to the next level. Now, on release, of course, the game is commercial. It's not a free game. It would be, you have to pay money. It's like if you're buying a book or something like that, a novel. So it's in that category. It's a proper game. And my aim is to try and make it so that the game is, around. People are playing it for like a decade onwards. And that's what I find. I find that RPGs of all games, really, they lend themselves the best towards, they have the most longevity, because I guess it's a story and the players play it and they see the story, they get to see something interesting. That's what I'm thinking, that type of game will be the best one to go with. Also, I find it's interesting. It'll be interesting to develop as well. Okay, so that's basically what I'm thinking. So if I can get green light for series 1, then I can continue making tutorial series. And if you did enjoy this tutorial series and you want to see me making tutorial series into the future, then tell your friends about me and also vote for me in green light so that I can get to the 5 out of 5 green stars. Now, on the other hand, if I can't get series 1 greenlit, then as you just saw me explain, I'll go ahead and work on a commercial 2D RPG. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll let you know what the final decision will be. Maybe like, early next year sometime, whether I can get it greenlit or whether I'll go for making an RPG.